Freud once said, "What is not brought to consciousness returns as fate." This phrase echoes like a somber warning in the face of the new aesthetics of the modern woman. She has learned to mold herself to collective desire, becoming a specialist in digital self-construction, mastering angles, filters, and ready-made discourses about self-love and freedom. Yet the more she perfects her appearance, the further she drifts from her essence. Behind the defined eyes and the impeccable feed lies a silent anguish, not knowing who she truly is when no one is watching. The emptiness Freud referred to does not arise from a lack of achievements or beauty. It stems from a disconnection from one's own emotional truth. The woman who today displays independence and self-sufficiency has often learned it as a defense mechanism. She grew up seeing love as synonymous with pain, disappointment, and abandonment. So the heart shut itself off, and in place of vulnerability, a strong, seductive character arose, but one that is emotionally unavailable. She no longer knows if she is running from a bad relationship or from herself. This character, though powerful in the eyes of the world, grows weary of performing. With every new involvement, something within her longs to surrender, but the learned instinct holds her back. And the man who approaches, no matter how well-intentioned, is seen as a potential threat to her newly won freedom. She wants to be loved, yet no longer knows how to love. And so the very beauty that attracts also begins to repel. The unresolved emptiness silently sabotages every attempt at real connection. Many men feel confused, even rejected by this behavior. Yet few understand that behind the selective coldness and the rehearsed emotional language lies a wounded woman, fragmented between the image she created and the soul she has suffocated. And this disconnection, if not deeply observed, will continue to ruin promising relationships. But how can one recognize this woman before it's too late? How can one see beyond the beauty that seduces to perceive the abyss she tries to hide? Let's continue, because by the end of this video, you will understand what no one has ever told you about this new feminine profile and what to do to avoid falling into the most dangerous emotional trap of our time. She proudly repeats, "I don't need anyone." And indeed, at first glance, it seems true. She travels alone, pays her own bills, built her career, and all of that is admirable. But behind this proclaimed independence lies a silent fear of deep connection. Freud would explain this as an ego protecting itself from the pain of rejection by projecting self-sufficiency. Deep down, it is not that she doesn't want to love. It's that she is terrified of not being loved in return. The discourse of effective freedom has gained strength. But what we often see is a generation of emotionally shielded women who confuse vulnerability with weakness. She has learned to defend herself before even allowing herself to feel. And each new attempt at a relationship becomes a testing ground, where the other must prove he won't hurt her, even before he can truly touch her. It is a paradox. She longs to be chosen, yet she has built walls so high that no one can climb over them. This emotional barrier becomes so natural that she no longer notices the growing isolation, surrounded by friends, by likes, by achievements, yet alone when night falls. The self-sufficiency that was meant to be a point of balance has turned into a hiding place. Freud would say she has rationalized her pain so much that she forgot where the trauma even began. By protecting herself from surrender, she has also cut herself off from the most human experience there is, real connection. Deep down, this freedom is often nothing more than the other face of loneliness. And those who get involved with this woman feel as if they are trying to reach something unreachable. You offer presence, but she responds with distance. And this is not cruelty, it is defense. But for how long will the armor be necessary? She laughs out loud, shines on social media, collects casual encounters and ready-made phrases. But the moment someone tries to see beyond the surface, beyond the emotional makeup, she withdraws, changes the subject, alters her tone, disappears. Freud would call this an escape from the unprocessed unconscious. Because being truly seen is not light, it is confronting. And she grew up learning how to hide in versions of herself, not how to reveal her essence. The modern woman has learned to perform, to be everything, except herself. That is why deep conversations make her uncomfortable, not because they are boring, but because they demand presence, emotional intimacy, vulnerability. She does want to be loved, but only on the surface. When someone dares to dive deeper, she shuts down, because that dive would force her to face parts of herself that were silenced long ago. And that hurts more than any external rejection. And the most dangerous part? It is that this mask has become socially accepted, celebrated. She posts that she loves herself, but trembles inside when she is not noticed. Because deep down, her self-esteem was built on fragile foundations: abandonment, rejection, the fear of not being enough. Freud would explain that the inflated ego serves as a shield. It protects, but it also isolates. And the price of protection is loneliness. After all, no one can truly love someone who only allows themselves to be seen as a performance. She wants you, until you begin to want her too. The instant you show affection, presence, real intention, she withdraws, turns cold, disappears. Suddenly that burning interest becomes calculated indifference, and you ask yourself, what did I do wrong? But the truth is, it wasn't you. It was what you awakened in her, the threat of being truly loved. Freud would call this the compulsion. To repeat, a psychic trap where the unconscious recreates old wounds in search of closure. She is not running from you. She is running from the possibility of reliving abandonment. Paradoxical? Yes. But that is precisely why she desires the one who rejects her, because there the script is predictable, familiar. It is the same she once lived with significant figures of affection, where love and absence walked hand in hand. But the man who values her confronts her with something she does not know how to handle, the real chance of being chosen. This pattern destroys connections before they are even born, and you, who came with maturity, end up paying for the mistakes someone else once made, because deep down, she does not want a relationship. She wants to control the emotional ground to avoid being hurt. And when the game turns into real love, she sabotages herself. Not out of malice, but out of defense. She wants to be loved, but fears even more being truly seen, and then abandoned. All over again. She is not by your side to build something together. She is in a silent battle that few can truly perceive. Freud once warned that when the female ego feels its safety threatened, it reacts with competition, not surrender. And this has become the rule for the modern woman. She no longer seeks a partner to share life with, but an adversary to challenge, to surpass, to win, at any cost. But the cruelest part of this dispute is that the real enemy is not you. It is the fear that inhabits her. The fear of surrendering, of being vulnerable, of losing the control she fought so hard to achieve. Every gesture of yours, every attempt at closeness, is perceived as a risk, a threat to her carefully guarded emotional territory. So she reacts, raises walls, throws provocations, plays the power game. And in this invisible war, what is lost is the bond, the real possibility of deep connection. While she fights to win, the relationship grows colder, affection drifts away, and true. Love becomes a hostage of competition. You remain there, torn between wanting to win her over and wanting to be respected. But she is elsewhere, focused on not being defeated by her own ghosts. This dynamic breeds exhaustion, frustration, and confusion. And for anyone seeking more than a game of power, here lies the warning. Beware of entering an arena where the prize is not love, but an illusory victory against herself and against you. The next step of this battle will reveal what she truly wants and what you must do to avoid losing yourself in this fight. The modern woman walks toward power, and it is undeniable that she has conquered spaces that once seemed unreachable. But in this relentless pursuit of autonomy, something essential has been left behind: the sensitivity for true love. Freud had already perceived that when the feminine disconnects from eros, that vital force of desire and surrender, a shadowy presence arises within her, the negative animus, an energy that blocks genuine connection with the real masculine. This animus in Freudian psychoanalysis represents the part of the female unconscious that resists encounter with the other, that protects and at the same time imprisons. It builds an invisible wall between the woman and the pleasure of surrender, preventing her from feeling deep affection and true intimacy. The very strength that could be channeled into love is transformed into armor, and what was meant to be union becomes distance. In the spiritual symbolism of this dynamic, disconnection from eros is like a river that has dried up. The source of emotional life runs out, leaving behind an arid ground. The woman who loses this contact finds herself distanced not only from man, but also from herself, trapped in a painful duality between the desire for power and the fear of surrender. The mystery lies in how this energy can manifest both as strength and as prison. And while she struggles to assert herself in the external world, the inner void grows silently, demanding a reconciliation that few know how to seek. What Freud teaches us is that the path to wholeness requires the courage to rediscover the lost eros, the flame of surrender that, once rekindled, can transform not only the feminine, but also the relationship between men and women into a dance that is true and profound. She arrived with attentive eyes, but not to know you, rather to project. You became the mirror where she sought to see what she wanted to be. Someone desired, powerful, flawless. At first, your reflection shone, perfect, smooth, limitless, showing only what she wished to see. But when you began to reveal who you truly are, with your imperfections, fears, and vulnerabilities, she grew frightened. She vanished, disappeared as if reality itself were the enemy. Freud would say this behavior reveals a profound incapacity to love what is genuine, what escapes fantasy. To love the real means to accept the other in all their complexity, with flaws, doubts, and raw emotions. Yet she chose the illusion of the mirror over facing the truth of human connection. And this escape is not a lack of love, but a paralyzing fear. The fear of being seen, of being touched by authenticity. For you who gave yourself fully, the pain is inevitable. To realize you were used not as a man, but as an object to fill a void, to feed an image, cuts deep. It is the bitter awareness of not having been loved for who you truly are, but only for the reflection you could provide. This is one of the hardest wounds to heal, because it touches the very core of masculine identity. But within this pain also lies a liberating truth. The recognition that true love is not based on images, but on acceptance. You deserve someone who sees your imperfections and still chooses to stay. Someone who doesn't need mirrors, but connects with your humanity. And this search, despite its stumbles, is the path toward the real encounter. Freud once said, "Desire does not want peace, it wants intensity." This phrase reveals a profound paradox that many modern women carry without realizing it. They have been conditioned to associate stability with monotony and peace with the absence of real life. That is why, when faced with a stable man, someone who offers security, balance, and tranquility, the unconscious instinct moves to sabotage the scenario. Stability threatens the identity built in chaos, the very identity that feeds and protects her. This invisible fear is born from familiarity with emotional turmoil, from the adrenaline of uncertainty, from the agitation that, however destructive, still feels more real than serenity. A woman who grew up in an unstable environment may feel uncomfortable in calmness because it represents an unknown world, a world where there is no drama to escape, no strong emotions to manipulate. Peace becomes the enemy because it dismantles the narrative that sustained her for so long. That is why she sabotages the stable man, often without knowing why. She creates crises, complains about routine, stirs up doubts. Freud would call this an internal battle between the desire for security and the need to maintain an identity shaped by conflict. Stability is not seen as a safe harbor, but as a silent prison that threatens the freedom she believes she gained through chaos. This is the warning for the man who seeks to build something solid. It is not enough to simply be stable. One must Understand that the stability he offers confronts old and invisible fears, which demand to be acknowledged and transformed. Only then can peace stop being mistaken for boredom and love grow beyond the storms that once were. She appears to the world as a beautiful woman, full of autonomy and a freedom that many envy. She exudes confidence and power, but behind this image hides a more painful truth. She is emotionally unavailable. Not by conscious choice, but because she is trapped in her own inner labyrinth, a tangled web of fears, wounds, and defenses that prevent her from truly connecting, both with herself and with others. Freud would not judge her, for he understood the complexity of the human soul. He would not see in this woman an adversary, but rather a lost soul, trying to find herself within a confusing map, drawn by experiences that were never properly processed. Every step she takes seems guided by shortcuts that only lead her further from the true exit. An endless search for freedom that paradoxically keeps her captive in a cycle of solitude and emotional disconnection. And yet, this diagnosis, as heavy as it may sound, also brings relief to the one who watches from the outside, to the man who lives beside her. Because realizing that she is not an impenetrable enigma, but someone fighting against her own ghosts, allows one to look at her with compassion, not resentment. Recognizing this is the first step to not getting lost inside her labyrinth, to maintaining clarity, and to pursuing what truly matters, the freedom that is born from authentic connection, not from escape. If you've made it this far, you already know that dealing with the modern woman is not about control or illusion. It is about understanding, accepting, and deciding whether or not you want to embark on this complex journey. And the choice is yours, to keep trying to decipher her labyrinth, or to seek a path where freedom is real for both. If you want to continue this conversation, if you want to go beyond the surface, subscribe, because the next step may be the most important one.